The city of Boston had a specific kind of cold that only November could produce, the kind that crept through brick walls, settled into joints, and made old buildings feel like they were exhaling. Massachusetts General Hospital had stood for over a century, and James Whitfield had worked inside it for 31 of those years. He arrived every morning before the maintenance team, before the nurses changed shifts, before the first surgery was scheduled. He moved through the hospital's lower corridors the way water moves through familiar pipes, quietly, efficiently, without announcement. Boiler room first, then electrical panel checks on floors 1 through 4, then a walk-through of the mechanical systems most administrators didn't know existed. James was 52 years old, broad-shouldered, graying at the temples. He wore the same dark navy uniform every day, scuffed steel-toe boots, and a ring of keys that clinked softly against his hip when he walked. His hands were the hands of someone who had fixed things before anyone noticed they were broken. Thick-palmed, steady, perpetually stained at the knuckles from some recent repair. He was the chief of facilities, which meant, in practice, that he was the person the hospital called when everything else had failed. He had outlasted 4 hospital directors, 11 department heads, 2 full renovations. And he had done it all without a single formal complaint filed against him, without a single major systems failure on his watch, and without missing a single performance review for his small, loyal team. He was the kind of man institutions forgot to appreciate until something broke. That Tuesday, he was in the basement mechanical room at 6:45 in the morning when his phone buzzed. The text was from his grandson, Grandpa. They posted the seating assignments. James stopped what he was doing. He pulled off one work glove. First violin, section lead. You're looking at the first violin of the Boston Youth Symphony. James read the message twice. Then he sat down on a metal stool in the middle of the boiler room and pressed the phone to his chest. Eli was 14. He had lived with James since he was 6, after James's daughter had been killed in a car accident on Route 9 on a winter morning that James still could not think about directly, only around the edges, the way you look at something too bright. He had raised Eli the way he maintained the hospital, quietly, consistently, without drama, with absolute devotion. Eli had picked up the violin at age 7. By 9, his music teacher had said something James would never forget. "Mr. Whitfield, I want to be careful how I say this. I don't want to put pressure on him. But I've taught for 22 years, and I've had one student like Eli." Carnegie Hall was hosting the National Youth Symphony Showcase in 3 weeks. Eli was going to play in it. James typed back, "Front row center. Nothing in this world is keeping me away." He put his phone in his pocket, stood up, and got back to work. He did not yet know that before the week was over, he would be asked to make a choice he had never anticipated. The new chief of operations arrived that same autumn. Dr. Miriam Coles was 44 years old, recruited from a hospital group in Atlanta that had become famous in healthcare circles for dramatically cutting operational costs. She had a master's in systems management and spoke about efficiency the way other people spoke about religion. With certainty, with momentum, and with the implicit suggestion that anyone who disagreed simply hadn't understood the faith yet. She wore charcoal blazers. She carried a tablet everywhere. She greeted staff members by their department, not their names. At least, not at first. Within her first month, she had restructured 2 departments, eliminated a contractor position that 3 people had quietly depended on, and introduced a digital monitoring system for facilities response times that James's team had privately nicknamed the Leash. She was not cruel. She was efficient. The distinction mattered to her deeply and almost not at all to the people affected. She and James had worked around each other with professional courtesy. He answered her questions directly. She acknowledged his results without sentiment. It was a functional arrangement, until the Thursday morning staff meeting in the 3rd floor conference room. The agenda was the system migration. Massachusetts General was transitioning from its legacy hospital management platform, a system so old that only 3 people in the building truly understood it, to a fully integrated cloud infrastructure. The cutover date had been set. It was going to happen on a Friday night in November, beginning at 9 p.m. and running through the early morning hours. James looked at the date on the slide. He looked at it again, his hand resting on the conf.